we will go over paid social for holiday campaigns in particular. And for the designers, hopefully this isn't boring. It could be, but it could also be informational as to just understanding how paid social campaigns work. What we'll cover is 5 questions to get you started, 2 campaign structures, and a few different media planning recommendations. So we'll jump right in. So 5 keys to a successful campaign, getting started with paid social media. What are your goals? So when you are getting started, typically I have 5 questions that I like to ask clients, or I like to ask my team, or I like to ask myself to make sure that I have all of the information in order to just kind of figure out what is this campaign's purpose, what am I going to do with it, where is it going to go, kind of all the basics. So what are your goals? So maybe your goals are inviting the community to attend your Christmas services, sharing free resources with families, or maybe you're inviting your local community out for a holiday night of fun. I don't know. There could be XYZ, etc. here. These are just some examples. Who are you trying to reach? So, are you trying to reach parents? Are you trying to reach singles? Are you targeting younger or an older demographic? Do you have psychographic or demographic information you'd like to utilize? Are you trying to keep your audience broad, or do you want to keep it a general audience of just the general localized community? Understanding who you want to target with your ad is, I would say, one of the most important factors. One, for content creation and knowing what kind of assets and visuals I want to create. And then 2, when I go to build out the campaign and platform, just understanding how and who I'm going to target when I build out that specific audience set. 3, when is your event? A good rule of thumb is just understanding when you start this campaign, I should know the date of the event or the date of the service, or if I don't have a date, what is the intent? And so if it is a date-based call to action, a good rule of thumb that we talk about at ArtSpeak is just having your event promoted 1 month out, 2 weeks out, the week of the event, and a day of. And so the reason that we kind of have like a systematized calendar for this is just because these are traditionally the most effective times to communicate your event to someone. 1, you want to just kind of gain some brand awareness. 2, you have opportunities to remind people. And 3, people are just forgetful and have a lot of things going on. So it's good to just kind of reiterate that over time. And then one thing that we do say is if you're running a paid social campaign, encouraging attendance to your Christmas gatherings, we would recommend running those ad sets for at least a minimum of 2 weeks leading up to your event. Some people have come up, and I've even seen ads go up where people post their ad 2 days before the event. Well, more than likely, these families already have a ton going on throughout the holidays, or individuals in your community likely will have things planned, whether it's attending the Christmas tree service or attending a family gathering or a friend party, whatever it is. So the sooner you can get that in front of people, the better. But at least run for 2 weeks leading up to your event, if not longer. Oh, what is your budget? That's always a fun question. So recommendation from us is usually a minimum of 500 when working with paid social, though I will say any budget of $100 or more can really help. I would say another option is if you're running a campaign that has a budget of under $500 for the total ad spend, consider a boosted post instead of a full-fledged campaign. And the reason being is that there's less tools included and less nuanced information for you to have to understand when it comes to planning when you do a boosted post. You can set your budget, you can set who your audience is, and you can just press boost because you already have the content created. You don't need to specify anything else when building out a boosted post. And then 5, where will you drive your campaign traffic? Are you so a good rule of thumb and just a note to know is when you want to run a paid campaign, you should have some sort of call to action. And that call to action, if it's as simple as a brand awareness campaign, may just be, hey, check out our page, or we want users to click through to our profile so that they see more, that they like our page or follow along with us. But also, if you're inviting people to something, you may want that paid campaign to drive to a Facebook event. You may want to drive it to an external website like Eventbrite if you're selling tickets, or if you have a reserved select amount of seats available for your services. You may be sending people to an article simply through a link click campaign. You may have a landing page set up with tons of information or downloadables, or uh, maybe you have free assets that you want to pass out. Maybe you have social shareables, or maybe you have flyers that you want your community members to download so that they can post at their kids' schools or their parents', I don't know, PTO meetings. They want to pass them out. This is a good opportunity to think about, what is the call to action that I want to drive this campaign to, and what is that next step that I want my users to take. So those are the 5 questions to kind of get started. I wanted to cover 2 campaigns. So the 2 different campaigns that we're going to talk about today are quick campaigns, is what we titled them. And then I believe the other one is, I changed it, but it's extensive campaigns. So the difference is just kind of based off of budget. So I want to talk about quick campaigns first. So a budget of $500 or under. Maybe you have a small team of creatives. Maybe you're a solo communications team. Maybe you have short timelines. You didn't really get to this in time, and now you're just kind of building out a social campaign or a social ad to invite people to your event 5 days in advance or a week ahead of time. So, quick campaign. This is kind of the structure of what I would think through for a quick campaign. And these are all of the assets that you need to have in mind now that you've thought through those initial 5 questions. So, goal: how am I going to run this campaign? Is it a traffic campaign, meaning am I driving link clicks? Do I want people to land on a landing page? Do I want them to download something? Do I want them to just click through to another website? Or is it just brand awareness? Do I just want them to follow my channel? Do I just want to get this ad in front of as many people as possible? Or potentially something else? I'm not sure. But typically, if you're spending about $100 to $500, these are probably the 2 goals in which you're going to utilize the most. Timeline might be 1 to 2 weeks. You can kind of go down to that 1 week timeline if you're under that 500. But again, I would still recommend running about a 2-week live campaign. Budget 100 to 500, as we said. And then when you're setting your audience for a quick and easy campaign, shorter budget, you have a smaller team, think about a 10 to 15 mile radius. General if you're in a rural area, or a lookalike audience if you're in a heavy populated area. So for those who are here that don't know the difference between the two, a general audience is in Facebook or in Meta ads. You can set a lot of parameters to who your audience is. More recently, there's a lot of AI being tapped into audience selection for Meta, for the paid ad suite. And so this is kind of like a mixed bag right now. But the general rule of thumb is, if it's a general audience, I am allowing Facebook's AI tools to read into who are the engaged users on my brand or my channel now. And then I want to set a specific radius, and I want to find people who are similar to those engaged users. Facebook's naturally going to start selecting people that they believe are similar. If I want to narrow that audience down, I have the ability to create a lookalike audience. So that can be done a few different ways. That can be done by creating a lookalike audience based off of the people who are currently following my page. It could also be done by an exported email list. Maybe you have a subscriber list. Maybe you have an internal CRM database that you can pull an email list from. Maybe you have a HubSpot, Salesforce. Maybe you have Rock RMS, and you want to pull like an email list. You can pull that. You can upload it to Facebook, and you can ask Facebook to find all of the users through those emails and then create a lookalike audience. So people who have a 1% engagement rate that's very similar to those individuals, if that makes sense. If this is complicated, I apologize. Hopefully it's not though. So yeah, typically when you're working with the two most basic levels of audiences, a general with a radius or a lookalike audience is the most effective. And then as far as assets go, you'll need to write anywhere from 1 to 5 headlines, 1 to 5 descriptions, which is your main body copy. So that's the long format body copy. And then for creative, you'll probably want to create anywhere from 1 to 5 graphics. Those will need to be 1 by 1 or 4 by 5. My recommendation is to have a mix of both. And the reason being, if you're a designer or if you're a creative, is that when I upload a 1 by 1 and a 4 by 5, it allows Facebook to read the dimensions, read the graphic, and it allows Facebook to place what it believes will be the most effective size and the effective graphic in front of audience members when they're most likely to engage with that content. So if you have a 1 by 1, it will show up in specific places on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. But if you have a 4 by 5, that ad may show up in other places that the 1 by 1 format does not work on the platforms. So it's good to have a variation. A minimum usually is a 1 by 1 and a 4 by 5 though. And then if you have enough time or if you're savvy enough, our recommendation is to do a video. So a lot of the things that we've recommended and had clients work on are selfie videos. This can be done really quick with a phone recording of a staff member or maybe even a volunteer, just kind of hyping up the event. So that's quick campaigns. From an asset level, you've asked yourself the questions, you know what assets you have. So for a little bit of an kind of like an engaging piece here, I'd love to ask you guys, what are some creative assets that you think could be created for a quick campaign like this? If you're thinking about graphics, videos, what are some things that are just kind of out of the box? Nothing's really wrong here, but what are some ideas you guys would want to see if someone was inviting you to their, let's say, just to narrow it down a little, to their Christmas Eve services?
Probably a selfie invite video be a good one.
You think there's any ways to make those kind of unique and different than just the traditional selfie video?
Probably get, if we're talking about Christmas, get some Christmas elements in there, even if it's like they're just dressed silly or like they have something going on in the background that's specific to what they're doing at their church.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
BTS setting up for Christmas. You could do a selfie video of
That's cool.
Our church has done that before. We've done selfie videos with the team setting up Christmas decorations in the background, just kind of showing everybody just gearing up for the holiday season. And then ugly sweaters are always a win.
That's true. That's actually a great point. There was one year, a couple of years ago, when I was working at a church, when we were kind of leading into the holiday season, one of the things we wanted to do was push like a whole bunch of stuff and get kind of staff members involved as well. So we even did a Thanksgiving video where we had different like worship leaders and pastors from all the different locations, Next Steps directors, do like a short clip of one thing they're thankful for. And we would have them do like a serious one and then one that was more like just humorous, comical. And it was fun. We kind of mixed them all in together. We had some of the quirky, funny ones, but we had some really sentimental videos as well. And honestly, I think that was one of our more highly engaged internal videos, which was fun. But we even had like community members who weren't a part of the like internal community engaging with it, which was fun. Cool. All right, well, we're gonna do that activity again, so I hope you guys think through it again. So The other campaign we're going to talk about is extensive campaigns. So this is just what we're titling budget campaigns that have budgets that are over 500. Maybe you have a full creative team, maybe you have an in-house team, or maybe you utilize ArtSpeak as your creative in-house team, and we're here to help resource in a lot of these ways as well. So when we're talking about extensive campaigns, you might have different goals in mind. You might even think through this campaign in phases. You may think through that. And let me take a step back. When I say a campaign in phases, maybe you're running campaign A, campaign B, and then campaign C. And each one is a week long, or each one is 2 weeks long. And what we're doing is we're thinking about it in the stance of maybe similar to how a salesperson would think through an email campaign. So maybe campaign A, phase one, is brand awareness. We're just trying to get our brand in front of people. We're trying to get our name out there. We're trying to get we're trying to generate some awareness so that we're not just a brand new icon or profile that people haven't seen before asking for something. Then maybe phase two, campaign B, is a link click campaign, and maybe we're providing some sort of value. So maybe it's like 10 fun things to do in your community this holiday season, or maybe it's 5 fun activities to do at home with your kids this holiday season. Maybe it's 3 effective ways to be a good neighbor to your, I don't know, friends and family, or to your neighbors this holiday season. But maybe you're thinking through it in a way where you want to just provide value now. And so you've warmed that user up, you've provided value for them. And then phase 3 might be campaign C. Campaign C might be that actual call to action. This is where you ask a user to commit to doing something. So that might be the ask of, hey, join us for a Christmas gathering. Hey, join us for an online service if you're not able to come to an in-person location, X, Y, Z. So when you're in an extensive campaign, when you're working with larger budgets, you can break your budget down a bit more, and you can do phased campaigns like that. And some of the different goals you might utilize here are traffic. So link clicks, we've already talked about that. Brand awareness, which is views on the platform. And then lead gens. Maybe you're trying to get people to download something. Maybe when you made the list of 5 fun things to do with your kids this holiday season, maybe you included baking recipes in that, and it comes down as a downloadable PDF card or something. Just fun ways to think through, like, how can I engage with the community and not just necessarily ask something of them without introducing myself. It's kind of the difference between a warm lead and a cold lead. And so it's just a more fun way to think about it if you have the resources and the time. And then, excuse me, as far as timeline goes, I still recommend the same thing here, 1 to 2 weeks. My recommendation, though, is splitting that into doing phases. So if you're going to do a phased campaign, run each phase for 1, maybe up to 2 weeks. Or if you're not, then run the campaign for at least 2 weeks. Maybe for an extensive campaign is $500 to $2,000. Your audiences are actually the same here. So one thing that has changed from previous years to this year is as you get to a larger budget, people typically want to get a little more technical. They want to start bringing in like psychographic, demographic information with their audience build outs. But more recently, because of the AI tools that Facebook has integrated in their recommendations, especially with the Advantage Plus use, which is in short terms, Advantage Plus is the AI suite of tools for Meta ads. With the integration of all this, though, it's good just to keep your audiences broad. Again, I would recommend the same thing here as I recommended in the simple campaigns. So a general in a rural area, or if you're in a heavily populated area, maybe if your church is in a city or right up against a city, it might be better to do something that's a lookalike audience just to get that little, like, one layer deeper of of similarities to your current engaged users. Creative here, as far as copy goes, is going to be the same. So 1 to 5 headlines, 1 to 5 descriptors. If you have this much budget going into your campaigns, my recommendation is to have about 3 to 10 graphics now. I would include 1x1s and 4x5s. I should probably add this, I apologize, but I would also include 9x16s in this format as well. And the reason being that we now have more budget, we can put the ad creative in front of more people in different places. And that 9x16 is for the story formats on Instagram and as well as Facebook now as well. Excuse me, sorry. And then again, creative here is maybe you do a selfie video, or maybe you guys even have a video team on staff, or you have a video external volunteer that you can utilize, and maybe you guys create something that's more professionally done, or maybe you kind of go a step further than just a selfie video. Maybe you get something recorded, or you create kind of like a hype video, or you create something where you want to engage people and show them a preview of what the event or the service might be about. So again, I'd like to ask, what are some creative assets that you think could be created for a more extensive campaign like this versus a simple campaign? I'll give you an example. So a few years ago, we did a Christmas service, again, when I was working at a church, where the theme was light to dark. And so we thought about, hey, well, what's a song that worship team knows really well that's really familiar to people, but we're not necessarily using it? And we thought about the idea of Silent Night. And we had the concept thought up that we would place a worship leader on a piano in an empty warehouse. We would light that person as a solo lit musician, and we would pan in for 30 seconds while they played Silent Night acoustically on a piano. Over that was some subtitles that just were like heartwarming, sentimental statements about the holidays, about Christmas. But the idea was the copywriting was written in a tone that went from kind of moody and dark up to a very vibrant and excited invite. And the end of the video was an invite. So that was a fun campaign that we did. And I would say we wouldn't have done that without an extensive timeline and extensive resources, but it was a very successful campaign as well. What do you guys think? What do you have?
My church has done around Christmas time. We do one of our major initiatives is we call it the Dollar Club. So we push for people to donate or give an extra $1 a month, and that money goes to a need in the community. So around Christmas
cool.
time, we'll do man on the street videos leading up to Christmas, where we talk to the community about what Christmas means to them, like what was their favorite Christmas moment, what is their favorite Christmas memory, etc. And it's not people that go to and we intentionally like target people that intentionally do not go to our church. Like we'll go to different communities around Barbersville or surrounding areas that we know we are not pulling people from. And so we'll just do man on the street. We'll take one of our I think our connections pastor usually does it. So we'll take a microphone, take a team, and with permission, we'll record people giving their stories, sharing memories, etc. And then we'll do a little invite at the end. And we've actually had people show up from that before.
That's cool. That's really fun. I love the man on the street type of content. I feel like it's been a trending type of or style of content for a while, and I think people have found ways to evolve it, but
it's a
I
lot.
think it's always fun. Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. Anyone else?
When I worked at a church, we did we shot a video with the kids ministry, and the topic was what Christmas means to them. And it was funny because you expect like a more like serious answer, but then you like remember their kids, and like the stuff that they would say was so hilarious. So like we found some for social media, some for like a transition video on a Sunday, but it was like
That's
hyping
awesome.
up to the kids' Christmas service. So like it made them look forward to meeting the personality of the kids and what they're looking forward to for that day, that presentation that they were doing. I thought it was pretty funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's hysterical. I'd love to see that too. That's funny. Nice. I'm curious, Mike or Bria, if you're still here even. Have you guys seen anything that kind of sticks out when it comes to like design trends right now that could be thought about or utilized when building out our Christmas campaign?
Vintage. Like I've noticed a lot of
Hmm.
like vintage Christmas stuff.
Okay.
We're talking like I don't know if this word means anything to anybody, but like crooner Christmas.
Hmm.
19 like in like a callback to what's the movie? Like It's a Wonderful Life.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
noticed a lot. I've noticed a lot of things like that. Um, yeah, it's like it's Christmas is hard to design for because
Hmm.
people have this preconceived notion as to what Christmas needs to look like. It's not You don't have a lot of freedom. You don't have as much freedom with Christmas as you say with Easter because Easter is there's a lot more wiggle room with Easter than with Christmas
Yeah.
because people just have this preconceived notion it has to be green, white, red, and then some variation there, some combination thereof, snowflakes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If your church is okay with Santa Claus, okay. We did I think last year for Christmas we did we did like a very vintage looking Christmas, like sort of like in the style of the old Coca-Cola ads.
Hmm.
Um,
That's cool.
So that's what I've noticed. But that probably is being curated to my personal taste.
Hmm.
Too. So, yeah, like Christmas is tough. Christmas is tough as a designer. It's tough to design for.
Yeah. Interesting. Have you guys come across any paid or sponsored campaigns visually that have really stopped you, whether it's holiday or not holiday?
Nothing is sticking out. Nothing's like coming to mind immediately though.
Yeah. Cool. That's all good. Sweet. All right. Well, the last section is just planning and scheduling. So, just some notes to cover there. So, schedule your campaign for a minimum of 1 week. We recommend 2 to 3 weeks. We've kind of mentioned this a couple times. Build out your campaign a minimum of 3 days before the launch date. The reason for this being is sometimes Facebook needs to generate your audience. Sometimes the review process gets bogged down. Sometimes there's just an issue and you want to know it before your campaign goes live. And Facebook may not notify you in the first 5 minutes, but they may notify you in 24 hours like, hey, there is an issue with your graphic dimensions, or you may be over the ratio for how much text can be on your graphics. Or you may have language that's not appropriate to Facebook standards. So, getting that campaign built out in platform and ready to go 3 days before is always a good benefit. Monitoring your campaign at least at the 3 day mark, the halfway through your campaign, and then finally pulling a final report the day after the campaign ends or when you can get to it. But it's a good rule of thumb when monitoring your campaign to think through a couple things. One, monitor your cost per click or your cost per lead. You want to make sure that those are in good areas for what you believe is deemed appropriate for your budget. And then two, a lot of people miss this, but open up your ads through your ad set and look at the comments. A lot of the time, tools like Sprout or other social scheduling platforms who aggregate or congregate comments and threads from different social platforms don't always pull in the threads from paid ads. And so some of them do, but most don't. And so it's good just to open those ads and check in on the comments, see if there's any questions, see if there's any negative feedback, see if there's anything that you need to respond to, hide, delete. Yeah, and that's about it. So, any questions?
In your opinion, would you treat like responding to comments on an ad any differently than on an organic post?
No. So the reason being is that at this point, your pages likely aren't private, they're public. And so even though people who are engaging on your organic channels are more than likely people who are engaged with you or know who you are, or maybe go to your church or utilize your service, the people on the paid channels, may not be currently engaged, but they can still click through, see the same content. They can still see the same tone of voice. They can still see the same questions. And so I treat both as though they're the same. I use the same tone of voice. I use the same responses. If we have a set of FAQs that we've built out for the event or something that's coming up, I'll utilize those templated responses. I will obviously edit them for whatever the specific use cases, but I typically treat them different. And I think, honestly, to each his own. If you guys want to treat them different instead of treat them the same, then that's okay too. But I would just remember that they can also click on your organic page and see the responses and your tone of voice there as well.
Do you have any offhand examples of organizations that are following this process well, and they're actually seeing like good results from it?
Process as in like these campaign structures, or process meaning just like paid social in general?
Just we'll keep it super general, like paid social in general.
Yeah, so honestly, the top 3 brands, in my opinion, right now are like, and these are just personal too. These aren't even, I couldn't tell you who the industry leaders are. I know the industry leaders, according to a lot of websites right now, are McDonald's, Sephora, and Nike. But personally, I love what Blue Bottle Coffee does. I love what Trade Coffee does. Um, I think Life Church, if you want a church example, does phenomenal with their paid content. And if you don't know, there's a fun tool called Facebook Ad Library, and I will drop this for you right now. There's a fun tool through Meta where you can, let me, hold on. Sweet. Drop this. You can click this link and you can actually type in pages from Facebook and you can see all of the ads that they're currently running. So if you just select under search ads United States and then select all ads, you can literally type in life.church and you can see all of the ads that they've ran this year or are currently running. I think this is a phenomenal tool if you want to see what some other churches are doing, if you want to do some social listening, if you want to see what other brands might be doing, or maybe you even know that there's like, hey, there's 3 other churches who are kind of similar to us in some ways. We just want to see what they're doing for the holidays. You can type in their accounts here. You can see what ads they're running as well. Maybe that way you don't run the same ad. Maybe both of you don't have 2 different ads that just say, join us for our Christmas gathering. Because then people just have combating ads with 2 different brands that they don't really know. Sweet. Any other questions? Thoughts?
No, this was great, Jackson. Thank you.
Funny jokes? Sweet. Cool. Well, thanks for joining. Hopefully that was informative. And if you are watching this later, whenever that is, I hope that this was helpful. But always feel free to reach out to myself, Megan Dennett, Michi. You can reach out to Mike if you want. You can reach out to Andrew as well. Anyone on the ArtSpeak team should be able to point you in a direction or help you out. But yeah, happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.